Welcome to the channel, everyone. My name is Nick. For those that are new to the channel, hopefully by the end of this video, you do become a subscriber. So we have been witnessing some pretty big moves happening around Hedera that I have been spotlighting. Now, again, I know that you guys are probably going to say, well, what about the price action? What about the price action? And I've said it many times over, especially over the last couple weeks, that I do expect price action to rebound in a big way. We just have to get through the trade war discussions because, this is basically the storm, right? The trade discussions, the tariff discussions, it's all just one big storm that we have to weather. And until we get out of it, yeah, it's going to be rough. But I will say, the main thing that actually gets me through some of the worst price action in this space, we're going all the way back. We can go as far back as, 2020. We could look at even 2022. I was mainly focused on fundamentals. I was mainly focused on the moves being made around these networks. And Hedera continues to be a big player when it comes to the biggest moves happening around crypto. Now, I will start off this video with a few updates that have been happening around Hedera, and then I will lead into the big thing, right? The big thing that everyone's talking about at this current moment in time. So let's actually start off with some of the smaller moves being made around Hedera with, for an example, the first one being Fireblocks. So we have, as of today, Fireblocks HQ supports the Hedera EVM, enabling institutional custody for EVM-based RWAs and tokens on the Hedera network. Now, this is actually very beneficial for Hedera, especially at a time where we know institutional DeFi is becoming a big deal. I do think that institutional DeFi is going to start to heat up in a big way on Hedera over the course of the next couple weeks and months ahead. Because of a lot of these integrations and the moves being made to actually support that entire market. But I think that this is a great start, especially considering the fact that Fireblocks is an absolute massive giant. Now, is this only good for Hedera? No, because if we actually look at a lot of the announcements, Hedera is not the only one being supported by Fireblocks. And we can actually see in the month of March alone, there's been massive support updates from Fireblocks. We could see all of the chains and all of the blockchains actually that were tapped in March alone. Mantra, for an example, Gonzilla, Kraken Inc., Abstract, Hedera EVM. I mean, there's been so many big moves happening around Fireblocks. But again, the big thing to focus on here is that Hedera's EVM is now exposed to the Fireblocks network as well, which is very beneficial because we know how big this is for EVM-based RWAs and even tokens that could be traded on Hedera. There could be even new markets that open from this, aka DeFi markets. So I think that this is great. And again, Fireblocks is a huge player in this space. If you haven't already, looked into them, I think you should because they have a lot of great connections to some of the best networks in the space, the blue chip players as well. And we know that they have over 2,000 plus customers, $10 trillion in transactions, and 300 million wallets secured. And they are mainly an institutional players. So the fact that they have so many names under their belt already as an institutional player really kind of speaks volumes on how big they are, not just in crypto, but also outside of crypto to really kind of bridge that gap with TradFi. So love to see these moves being made for Hedera to really kind of open up the markets for the network and the ecosystem as a whole. Now, on top of that, we have to look at some of the events that are upcoming, aka we look at Paris Blockchain Week. This is a big one. We have from Hedera. Hedera is headed to Paris Block Week 2025. Next week, one of the year's biggest events shaping the future of blockchain and Web3 technologies. And of course, they do have a booth there. This is going to be happening on the 8th and the 10th of this month. And again, this is definitely one of the bigger events happening around crypto. And I'm actually very excited for this event because I think that we're going to be seeing a big spotlight put on a lot of things, not just Hedera, but also, around tokenization, legislation, the regulatory, clarity that could very well be happening this year for crypto as well. I just think that's going to be a great event. So, if you do have some time, you're not too busy, I think that this is going to be live streamed. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I think that you should keep a close eye out on some of the updates happening around Hedera's profile on X. You could turn on their notifications and get immediately notified when new posts are happening, because I do think that there's going to be a lot of great insights happening around this this event. But on top of that, we did get a spotlight from Paris Blockchain Week on one of the key sections that will be highlighted from this event, which is, of course, the truth behind tokenization and RWAs. Tokenization is redefining financial markets, unlocking new liquidity, and reshaping asset ownership. But what are the real challenges and opportunities behind this transformation? And we can actually see the panelists here, aka the CEO from the HBAR Foundation, Charles Atkins, is going to be there. Director of Emerging Technology at LSEG. Securitize is going to be there as well. INX Group, Timans, and even Cointelegraph. So love to see it. I think that this is very exciting, and we already know how big tokenization is becoming. We know how huge tokenization on Hedera is as well. So we love to see this. I think that this is going to be a very exciting one to really kind of listen in, see some updates happening around it, and really kind of see what goes on. So I think that this is going to be great. Now, outside of that, let's dive on into the big news, which is Justin Hashgraph is developing a Hedera-based private network for highly regulated institutions with plans to launch in the third quarter of this year. Now, this is huge. This is huge because of how big this will be for the institutional side for Hedera. Now, you might be saying immediately, this is a private network, which means yes, public HBAR probably won't be utilized. We don't have any specifics on that just yet. We can't get too far ahead of ourselves. But I know what you guys are already thinking. Well, this is not going to benefit HBAR. This is not going to benefit HBAR holders. Before we get ahead of ourselves, we got to understand that the private and public side of things are always going to be bridged. This is going to be connected to the public network. I think that the private network is going to be a big place for these institutional players to actually develop and test new products that could immediately be bridged over to the public network and launched. I think that this is actually very exciting, and I think that this is going to be a game changer as well. But a few updates happening around this. Number one, we have from the Hashgraph. So Hashgraph is excited to unveil HashSphere, which is the private network, built to meet regulated enterprises wherever they are on their blockchain journey. HashSphere delivers the best of both worlds, a private permission network powered by Hedera, combining the transaction privacy and control of private networks with the scalability and security of Hedera's enterprise-grade technology. And here we have the key updates happening, the key efficiencies behind this network. So number one, regulatory compliant private network. Number two, future network interoperability with the Hedera public network, which again, there you have it, right? Interoperability with the Hedera public network. So this is exactly confirming my thoughts. The private side will be able to be bridged and connected to the public network, where you do see the benefits of this for public HBAR, for an example. HBAR holders will see the benefits of this. It could be any major scalable enterprise or institutional, application that gets launched. We would see the benefits of that. But we also have enterprise-grade infrastructure for tokenization, RWA, and AI solutions, fast, low-cost deployments with expert support and services. So this is great to see. I think that this is incredible. Obviously, a lot of eyes now on Hedera as we do start to see a lot more updates similar to this. I mean, you got to think about what's been happening over the last 2 years alone for Hedera. They launched the stablecoin studio, the tokenization studio. I can name so many big updates that have happened around like partnerships or just like announcements around the ecosystem. But this is just another one to put up there on the, pedestal, if you will, next to the studios, like the tokenization studio and the stablecoin one. When we think about Hedera right now, it is becoming that big network that's been building in silence and becoming an absolute giant to the point where it feels like this is going to be Hedera's year. This is a huge announcement. And also big shout to Tokenizer, because we have the recent HBAR news on HashSphere's quite exciting. Here's some of the key points I'm seeing. Number one, testing by Australian Payments Plus. Number two, X permission interoperability to Hedera. And this is, cross permission. Cross permission stablecoin exchange as well. The vision of HashSphere plays perfectly into the concept of blockchain 4.0. As we know, the core ethos of blockchain 4.0 is towards the harmonization of public and private DLTs working together. Hedera is already involved in that sense through Tachyon using a private Hyperledger Sawtooth paired with HCS, but HashSphere truly takes it to another level, as the concepts of HashSphere is to build a private permission version of Hedera in-house, while in the past, the concepts of private permission DLTs seem to be an alternative option to using public chains. That view has since shifted. As we've already mentioned, the vision now isn't private or public DLT, but rather it's now how do we leverage both public and private DLT for more robust harmonized operations. The interoperability aspect into the public Hedera hash graph is quite eye-opening too. While I'm sure cross interoperability between the two will be at every level, it's beginning with stablecoins. And the possibilities within the world of banking to be able to use a private DLT paired with a public one for retail access for stablecoins can be a game changer. On the other hand, with regards to stablecoins, we've obviously seen the work, Hedera's done on that end. We've seen everything from the stablecoin studio, which is a huge one, tested by real world financial institutions, all the way to Navadi actually using Hedera for cross-border payments trials under Monetary Authority of Singapore. HashSphere is expected to be released by Q3 of this year, and it's coming at arguably the perfect time as the real-world adoption of enterprise DLT continues to spiral into its network effects phase. And yeah, I think that this is going to be huge. I think that it's great for Hedera. It puts a spotlight on how big Hedera is becoming, not just around retail or around Web3, but also even around TradFi and Web2. This is huge. Now, to really kind of put a spotlight on the private public idea within the space, yeah, public blockchains are becoming a big focus, but there's always that thought of how can we leverage both, because why not get the best of both worlds? Now, recently there was actually a great post from the Digital Monetary Institute, aka the OMFIF, where they did put a spotlight on why public blockchains have the advantage over private blockchains for creating payments networks. Now, if we check this out, we could hear exactly why you should be looking into the public blockchain side of things.
But the fundamental problem with these private permission ledgers is it's a boot problem. You have to get everyone to agree to use the same state machine. And that's very tricky. So it's fundamentally an adoption problem rather than a technology problem. But in the case of the public permissionless networks, they already exist. My article was called Ready Layer 1, but in reality, Layer 1s are ready and they're open for business. And they're quite capable of supporting regulated business.
Now, this is not the only time that we saw a big spotlight put on the public blockchain side of things, right? Even if we go back a little bit to December, BlackRock's CIO states public blockchains are the future of finance. A few years ago, we thought private permission blockchains would lead. We now realize public blockchains are better. And also, there was a great post recently from BlackRock's head of digital assets, Robbie Michnik, where he said that the direction of travel and focus for TradFi firms are public blockchains. Check it out.
Financial institutions' efforts on private blockchains in the past, and maybe sort of the shift to public blockchains, the regulatory political temperature that has kind of been changing in recent years to kind of lead to that.
Yeah, well, I think the verdict is in on the private blockchains, and it's not good. That was obviously where a lot of the TradFi exploration in this space occurred in the early years in particular. That was really all of the banks and some of the other TradFi institutions had comfort with. But the track record is what it is, and it reflects the fact that there's been very, very de minimis actual adoption in an economic, commercial way at scale of any of these private blockchain projects. And I think, in hindsight, at least, that makes sense in terms of the curbing of the value prop of blockchain's potential that a private blockchain represents. And so public blockchains are increasingly the focus, even for TradFi firms, maybe not all yet, but certainly that's the direction of travel. And we've seen obviously encouraging regulatory guidance over the last couple of weeks that help support the notion that this is now a suitable territory for even banks in the US to engage in.
So yeah, I mean, this is a very big growing narrative, which is why I do think that HashSphere will probably be a testing ground for a lot of great institutional and enterprise use cases that will ultimately be bridged over to the public side of Hedera. I think that this is huge. I think that it's great, and I think that it's actually putting a spotlight on how connected Hedera is becoming with the institutional and enterprise side of Web 2 essentially. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.